So how could a future Mercedes look like, a very distant future Mercedes? What ideas are there? And also what about sustainability? A big topic here at the CES in Las Vegas this year. Well, here it is, and it's called the Vision AVTR, inspired by the Avatar movie. Let's dig deeper into this very concept. And please, Jonas, do the intro magic. Let's go. So what we can see in the front is that this front, plexiglass grille, this has this EQ language of their electric brand Mercedes EQ. So it does fit into this new EQ lineup, definitely, an illuminated Mercedes star. But of course we see it's a very sporty concept, a little bit supercar-alike, you can see, extremely flat. And you can see those round tires standing out. I'll soon talk more about that when we see the car from the rear. And then you also see those wing doors, which are also like very spectacular in the effect. Yeah, I mean, that won't be pretty typical for a normal series production Mercedes model. Of course, there were also wing doors so far. Not quite this one, but other ones. And the interior will be very important. We will talk about battery technology, of course, because there will be a special battery in this car. We will talk about interior sustainability, which is has a very important factor for this one here, and also about other aspects of this very vehicle, because it's supposed also to connect people with their environment. So, but of course, I want to hear your opinion. What is your first impression here when just looking at the exterior? In the back we can see more interesting things. First of all, we can see how the tires stand out, and they are actually round, just like balloons, and also inspired by those Avatar wood spirits, those plant, animal, like beings. See it right there as well. And there's also a sustainability idea behind it, because when it's round like this, the actual surface touching the ground is not that big. You can of course argue then, what's with grip and traction and so on, but just about the idea, of course. And then here, very central and floating lines also at the rear of the car, huge panel opening right there, LED play field, and the light strip that goes all around the vehicle. And most significantly are those flaps, those dragon-alike flaps, even inspired by the movie, that also interact with the environment, go up and down, and can also, for example, display emotion, maybe like at some point, openness or maybe even aggressiveness, but also can serve some aerodynamic functions, maybe as an air brake, or then of course for the drag and so on. So again, pretty interesting ideas. If that has something to do with the real vehicle, that remains doubtful. No question of that. But this is also indeed not a vehicle that is supposed to be like on the market tomorrow, and even not in 5 years. We'll also talk more about that very soon. And of course, the most important thing about this one here is indeed the interior concept, which we will now take a detailed look. And now we're taking a detailed look at the interior of the concept. This one here is a separate, just interior piece, because we have more time to film with that, but it shows everything this concept has to offer. First of all, as for design, you can see a lot of floating lines, both exterior and interior. So it looks on the interior a little bit like on the exterior. And you can see also those curved structures. Everything is supposed to look organic, natural, inspired by nature. And we can also take a look at the materials because they are actually all recycled. Soon more details to that. You can see here is a bright Dynamica microfiber, for example, with some blue lines. All animal-free. The complete concept here is animal-free. That's also where Mercedes is heading for the future. You maybe also recently heard that Lewis Hamilton is, going big time for that. He wants to, have his influence also on the management. So really cool. So thank you again, Lewis, for that. And we can see this liane-style wood. So taken from special liane trees. Also more to that very soon. We'll take a look at the detailed materials. So it's a matte natural wood, feels very nice, looks very nice. Yeah, I mean, on the ground, it can maybe catch some scratches. It's a concept. We have to see later on in the real car if the wood will really be placed on the floor area. But definitely interesting to see. And when you take a look at the ceiling here, the inside, also on the top part or the back side of the seats, we can see this blue fabric. We also see something of this in the EQC already called Sunnyvale Seats. So they add another styling element to that one. So over a very, living room style-like interior. And of course, if you use those different fabrics, they're also good for the climate, not only for global climate, but also for the interior climate functions when you speak about, how you feel with your body in the concept. And we can see here some light effects. Here this central console, which can go up or down depending on if you put your hand there. So again, with this, organic image the whole car has, be more sustainable, more in line with nature and its surroundings. Well, and here you can see how it looks like when there's no flashy, effects all over this integrated front screen. This is also a trend here, definitely we can see on the CES show, that more and more elements dissolve in the car. For example, not separate speakers anymore, like surfaces become a speaker. That could be one element, for example, which is present on CES as well. But here also by Mercedes, that you don't see that it's a screen, but it will become a screen big time. And now I've taken a seat. It's quite interesting indeed, like with this huge glass panel and those, half-lying seat. And I'm also joined by Zain Amiralis. He's the manager of Advanced User Experience Design. And he, helps us to get through this experience here because there's actually, a lot to discover and actually some features we haven't seen so far in a car. So how do we start?
Well, first off, it's most apparent that we don't actually have any traditional interface elements here to be able to start. Everything's disappeared. Everything's actually merged together with the interior. So to get this journey started, we have this element right here in the middle. It's our merge control. And to get started, I would like you to just put your hand on there and see what happens.
So let's see. Oh, I feel like the seat is vibrating. And also it reacts to my hand a little bit. So that's what you think about, when, oh, yeah, that was me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what you can see right now is you can also feel your heartbeat is vibrating through the seat. And this is what we mean by human-machine merge. So it's not like you're sitting in a car and you're steering it, but the car is actually an extension of you. So it extends your capabilities, your senses, everything.
Is that like an actual heartbeat measured now, or is it just like at the moment like a fake heartbeat?
No, this is an actual measured heartbeat.
That's my heartbeat at the moment, really? Oh, no, it stopped. Yeah, but
now you've pushed forwards, and now the drive has actually started.
Ah, okay. So yeah, you have to really be be aware of what you push. So like when you push forward like this, right?
Correct. So our traditional steering wheel has disappeared. And instead, because we're driving autonomously, the car can do everything by itself. But if we want to influence it in any kind of way, speed up, slow down, maybe change lanes, we can do it with this.
So what we're seeing here right now, I mean, it's like this dream world inspired by Avatar. But this would actually, when we're driving like through the streets of Las Vegas or LA now, you would actually see the street you're driving in.
Correct. In this view, it's more about exploration. So you can see where you are right now and your surroundings. And what's quite interesting here is that you can see quite far. So you can almost see up to the horizon, looking in the vicinity. And on top of that, we enhance what you see. So in this case, you can, for instance, see wind blowing through the trees, just kind of understand things that normally you would not be able to see.
So you also thought about like displaying magnetic fields or something, right?
Correct. Because this is an avatar-based car, this Vision AVTR, we're looking more at things that have to do with nature. But if we would be driving through the city, it could be any kind of information that we would be blending in there. Maybe areas of interest or areas that are very popular right now.
So what's the meaning of that? Is it just for some more entertainment or like excitement, or is there like a deeper meaning behind that?
In this case, it's a deeper meaning. I mean, we look at Pandora in the movie of Avatar, and we see this beautiful planet. But what we want to express here is actually our planet Earth was the inspiration for that. We're already living in this amazing place, so let's take care of it.
So it also has like a message of let's take care about our planet.
Definitely, yes. And what we can do as well is we can jump into different points of interest and then look at a couple of these highlights in more detail. Would you like to try that?
Yeah, sure. That was this magic thing with the hand, right?
Correct. So as all the buttons are missing, to invoke the menu, what we do is we can raise our hand and turn it around. And here you can now see this menu projected inside of my hand palm. I can close to open different menu items. And then if I go over here and I do this, then we can actually see the content changes over here. So imagine you're driving in a new area that you don't know so well, and then different points of interest are nearby, and you want to go see them in more detail, and maybe see what does this look like when it's winter. Then you can fly over there, and you get this kind of like drone flight around the thing, just to understand it better and to be able to enjoy it.
So, and we already talked about this earlier. This could rather be, let's say, like something like Google Street View integrated in the car, because I think it's not that realistic that we have an actual drone flying over the car. It would be more like archive material or something.
Correct. It's not part of the vision that there's an additional element flying around. It really is, you have a catalog of different highlighted, let's say, mini documentaries of things that are around you, and you can experience them as you're driving by, just to give you a bit more entertainment during the drive, and again, really play into this exploration element.
Yeah, so there would be, I mean, we have some GPS systems which have those 3D maps of inner cities or something. That would be like a very, very elaborated version of that, something like this, right?
Exactly, yes. And what we can do besides this is we can also open up real entertainment features and then blend in a whole different world. Would you like to try that?
Yeah, sure. So I can do it with my hand here on the other side?
Yeah. The best is to use your right hand.
Right hand, okay.
So here's our natural interface. Just turn your hand away and then towards you. And there you can see our different items. So that's POIs, and there's avatars. So if you close your hand now, you can see the two avatar experiences that we have available. That's the one we have right now. And now if you close your hand right there, it's selected. And there we can see that on the large display, we're now in the Banshee. You can put your hand down, and then now we can explore this world of Avatar. We can see it on this large display, we can hear it in 360 degrees sound, and we can also feel vibrations in our seats to enhance this experience even more.
So this would be that you can like change from the real world to more like a cinema-like experience. So.
Exactly that. Right now we're going into another world, but it could also be that you're watching the latest blockbuster movie on here.
So what's your personal vision for that? Is it more infotainment or entertainment, or is it something that just, dissolves into each other?
I think there's definitely a hybrid possible. I think we'll always want to have pure entertainment as well, but also, as we saw in this earlier scene, there's kind of like hybrid version. I'm driving through my world, but I get a lot more information about it. I think could be absolutely fascinating.
Would this only be bound to a fully autonomously driving car, or would that let's say some elements also be possible when there's still a steering wheel?
Well, already in our current MBUX, we have MBUX augmented reality, which also already adds some kind of enhancements to an actual street view, helping us to navigate. But maybe for the passengers in the back, we could imagine something which is actually telling us more about our environment, just to not have any kind of driver distraction.
I mean, I could drive it. It feels a little bit sporty, like with this lying back position. But so do you think this is like a really realistic concept, or would you say like this is like 30 years away, or maybe like 5 years? is there any estimation of like, because people always ask like, how real is that? Can that be really implemented into a serious car?
Well, for this Vision AVTR, this is based 100 years into the future. So I think we'll...
100 years?
100 years. So this is a really far way off.
Oh, okay. Well, so we are back to the future, it seems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hartmut Sinkwitz was responsible for the interior of the concept vehicle, and one significant part of it are more sustainable materials. So please elaborate, why did you go for those materials and what are the advantages, both for the practicability and also for the environment?
Yeah, we are talking a lot about the meaning of nature, giving us a great inspiration for this show car, but also about the perception of the human beings being part of the nature. And therefore it is a clear goal for us that we want to treat nature in a more responsible way, and therefore we are looking for responsible materials that are sustainable, either renewable or recycled.
So we got one example here. We already know it from existing Mercedes cars. A lot of normal models have that, especially the AMG models, the sporty models, usually in black, but in this case a bright dynamic Air Microfiber. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, so it was a very nice finding. We discovered that this material is already much more recycled than we were aware. So this is around 80% coming from recycled materials. The company uses used dynamic materials that has been cut out for the use in the production process and hasn't been used, and they recycle it themselves. Next to that, they also take used textiles and used flags, as well as used PET bottles. And they create with that material these granulates, which they use to produce finally the material that has a very nice soft feeling, like a very natural leather, but in fact it is vegan.
Yeah, I think it's a very important aspect, because there's a lot of criticism when you go for like alternative, more sustainable materials. People say, oh, wait a minute, they are all like petroleum based. But yeah, partly they are, but they're still more sustainable. But you can see you can also do it just from recycled materials. And I mean, there's like plenty of material you can recycle that is out there.
Right, exactly. So if you imagine all the materials that is there that can be recycled, it's a great source, so that we don't need to take the oil out of the earth anymore. Instead, we can use much, much more materials that can be recycled and recycled again, especially when we have clean materials that are not mixed out of many different plastics. So in this case, this is a clear, clean material that can be used endlessly, often, again and again.
Yeah, so more and more of those, for example, microfibers or also the fabrics, they can indeed be also 100% recycled. Is it also the case with the black fabric?
Yes,
blue fabric.
Blue fabric, right. This is really 100% recycled, coming just from...
We can go there.
Bottles, yes. When we think about covering interior space materials, surfaces, it is, of course, essential to find materials that have a kind of friendly feeling. And textile is the favorite material in home for sofas. So this is even more convenient than the leather or other harder materials. And so I see a great trend coming to use more textiles. And this example shows that it can be very appealing and also high quality looking. In this case, it's been also, when we talk about the color, it's been inspired by nature, by the sea, and it has a nice changé effect depending on the light that comes towards it.
Yeah, especially in trend like in Scandinavian furniture, where we have more and more fabric materials, which are really cozy and stuff. And actually, it's also better when it's in the car. In summer, it stays cool, and in winter, it stays warm. And that's actually like, from the climate features wise, the fabric is even better than the Alcantara or Dynamica in this case from the company. So this would actually be the best material for everything. Sometimes people say, like, what about stains and what about like the long-term durability? Did you also look into that?
Yes, so our materials have to fulfill very, very high qualities. Sometimes it's a shame for us as designers because sometimes they don't fulfill the material quality. But these materials here are proven. We have special machines for that can kind of make a quick result, find out if it works or not. Yes,
Like a Nürburgring test just for fabric.
exactly. Stretching with 50,000 turnings in a minute or something like that. So really to imitate the aging effect of the use when you slide over it with the jeans or so. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we took a look at those fabrics, but there's even more because of the wooden style material we talked about. So you told me earlier this is not exactly the plant, but it looks almost like it's like a sample.
A little bit. So mainly this nice object here shows the idea of an enclosed cycle, and we are using a very new material called Karun, and it's made out of the rattan palm tree. You know, these rattan chairs, they are very light and durable, and here the company has also found some manufacturing process to give it a more appealing, more modern look, and it's very, very light. It grows very fast. It grows in the rainforest where we don't need to add any water to it. And we even do something good by harvesting the material, because these materials, they are laying around on the ground and take away the oxygen. And by harvesting the material, we can even support the big trees to grow even better, which is even better for the CO2 situation.
And you don't need like a massive monoculture where you tear down the rainforest and then put something on it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the unique thing about it. So I think this is the most sustainable wood that we can find ever.
That's really interesting. I mean, it feels, like matte and natural. It kind of feels like, the other wood veneers we find today in nowadays cars. So you wouldn't really see a big difference or feel a big difference. I think it's also, again, like this, Scandinavian furniture style with the, with the bright style and also, with the lines in it.
Yes.
So would this actually be also your favorite pick for your own vehicle?
I would love to try out, and we are working on it.
Thank you so much for the insight.
Thank you.
And now we're going to talk to Andreas Hintener. He's the head of battery research at Daimler. And of course, we want to know, what did you think about the concept? Which battery is the right one for this concept? And, where are we at the moment with the battery development and research? And where are we heading to?
At the moment, we are in the state of advanced lithium ion, so we already have a lot of energy density, and price came down significantly over the last 10 years. So we're actually in good shape at the moment, but pushing the boundaries will happen. So the concept you have seen here already features the organic battery. That's maybe the most advanced concept we can think about. No rare earth elements anymore, no precious metals, no toxic materials, only materials that we can directly source from agriculture and the ocean.
So how realistic is that? Or can you give like a year's prediction for those organic batteries?
It's about 15 years down the road. So give you a rough example, it already works in the laboratory, but it's certainly not yet a serious development. It's years away from production technology. We don't yet know how to make very large cells out of it, but it lives already in a concept car in lab.
So we have the battery density, we have the cost, then of course also security, or safety. And of course the sustainability, because, electric cars, they're often criticized, all the raw material stuff, and also like energy consumption in the production process and so on. So, what can you do there as a manufacturer to improve that?
The current situation with the lithium-ion systems in the so-called life cycle assessment that takes into account production, the whole lifetime with the energy you need for driving, as well as the recycling later on, shows that today's electric cars are already much better than the cars with the combustion engines. So the saying about electric vehicles that might be worse than combustion engine has never been true.
So that's because some of those studies, they assume that they, for example, break down after 125,000 kilometers or something,
We do whatever we can that the battery really lives as long as the whole vehicle. And the truth is, at the moment, the battery even survives the rest of the vehicle because all the engineering went into the effort making lifetime as long as possible.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, that you sometimes need used batteries for research, but there's like a scarcity of used batteries because they just hold, right?
There's even a scarcity for batteries for the recycling processes because the battery live as long as, even longer than we had expected it. They don't break down in the field. We have to tear down vehicles that might be still usable just to study how they age.
So your prediction is that lithium ion will be like, around for how many years, and, which technologies will maybe replace lithium ion technology?
Well, we will see the advanced lithium-ion technology still for another 10 to 15 years, but the increase of the market will happen via new technology. So you will add the new market segments with new technologies. So lithium-ion might remain stable, but won't grow as fast as the market will grow.
So people often say, like batteries, electric vehicles, they have certain challenges, something like infrastructure, then it's the range, then it's the cost. So what's your assessment? Which is the core problem you still need to solve?
Well, cost certainly needs to come down a little more just to make even cars financially sustainable. We brought them to excellent sustainability with the raw materials, but they need to be financially also sustainable. And with the new technology we foresee, we can get there. Range is certainly in the range that is acceptable. Fast charging is, we see a lot of push from the market towards fast charging, making fast charging even faster.
Yeah, about fast charging, how good is it actually for the battery to really fast charge, and which technologies can you apply to save the life of a battery? You think about also like those supercharging stations, really like pushing everything in, and then you can maybe just charge at home very slowly, which is supposed to be better for the battery. So what would you maybe give an advice for the electric car driver or future electric car drivers? What's the best thing to charge the batteries? Or are there systems where you say the customer doesn't need to take care of that, just charge whatever?
With our current EQC, I can promise you, whatever you do, you cannot handle it in the wrong way, because the battery management system takes care of that. You will feel that the higher the state of charge, so the filling level of electricity gets higher, it slows down the fast charging after a certain % of state of charge. This is just to protect the battery. With the next generation of battery technology, this limit will be pushed towards higher limits. So fast charging will get faster and will fill more energy in a shorter time. But I can promise you, even today, you cannot handle it in the wrong way. And actually, that's a good news from the driver perspective, because you don't, as a driver, don't have to care about it. But your observation is absolutely right. The colder it is, the more challenging it gets to do fast charging, the slower it gets. And new technologies will help us, in particular, to mitigate that issue at a cold winter day, that fast charging becomes a hurdle.
So if I, as a customer, want to do like the very best for my battery, for maintenance and so on, and for, long-term, durability and stuff, what would you say? Like, what would be the best way to charge, leaving like speed and comfort beside?
Actually, the best way, as you had described it, charge it at home, where you have a perfect outlet, where you usually have 6 to 8 hours of charging time overnight. The car won't need that, but also a utility company will be happy if you don't charge too fast. Keep it between 10 and 80% state of charge. For example, in the EQC, you can set the limit manually and limit it in the range, so you get a recommendation how to even improve your behavior. But even if you fully charge your vehicle every day, the battery management system takes care that you don't damage it.
So, and you deal a lot with current issues, but of course also future issues. But what would be your vision, like for the battery technology and also for the electric vehicles, when you just can imagine something?
Well, usually faster is better. That's the typical way of life. If you could improve the fast charging, let's say to 5 minutes instead of half an hour, this would be perfect. Almost equal refilling gasoline. So the use case for all those people that don't have an outlet at their apartment or in their garage would be actually perfect. And actually dropping down the price even further would enable the mass market penetration much faster. And if you think back, that life cycle assessment of the electric vehicle is much better than the combustion engine, would leverage the increase in the market.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
So, guys, what do you think if you think about the Mercedes of the future? Would you imagine that actually? I mean, we could start discussing now like different exterior lines and also that, the interior as, those lying chairs concept and so on, that's not really realistic and so on. But I think more important this time is more the message that the car sends, because so far, there was maybe Tesla as a manufacturer that really, was very invested in sustainability and saying like, for example, like we don't want to earn as much money as possible. We want to make a more sustainable mobility world. And now Mercedes also goes in this direction and saying like, we really want to commit to more sustainability, like in every single aspect, like recycling in the whole production process, less use of materials, less use of resources. more sustainable batteries and, more research in battery development, and of course also animal-free materials in the interior with, very high or maybe full recycling quota for that. And I think that's the real important thing here, so that this actually changes the direction and they really make a strong commitment. Of course, we will test them if they hold their word, also, in the upcoming reviews and from the real cars. But the thing is, you do those concepts to guide the way a little bit, and then this should also have a big impact on the real production cars, even if some of those single elements will not actually come in real production cars. So that's my assessment here for today. Very interesting, I think, and I mean, yeah, it's definitely a new key development, and I think other manufacturers will have to follow on this path. So, because, sustainability is, of course, about ethics, yes, but it's also about investment. Like 1/4 of all investments globally are meanwhile done in like sustainable rated companies or companies which are like best in their segment as for sustainability. So there's also actually pressure of money. Yeah, so different aspects here applying to, actually maybe a better world. Some things are really going very bad at the moment, but there are also glimpses of hope, even in an industry that is not really famous, for being very good or very sustainable for the world. But that can possibly also change. I hope you enjoyed this insight here for today, and also tune in to more episodes here from the CES, and of course also from our full reviews. Thank you so much. See you soon.